2. There are systemic issues that act as barriers against entry of minorities like Dalits and Muslims in Indian cricket. Analyze. 250 words. Q. There are systemic issues that act as barriers against entry of minorities like Dalits and Muslims in Indian cricket. Analyze. 250 words. Background. In India's 85-year-long Test history, only 4 of the 289 male Test cricketers have reportedly been Dalits. Even Muslims have been underrepresented in Indian cricket since independence, though not quite to the extent of the Dalits. Lack of Dalits in Indian cricket is due to the presence of systemic barriers can be seen from the decline in Dalit representation in professional cricket in India since independence. Systemic issues. Several reasons for these disparities have been put forth, ranging from bias in selection, to the slow nature of cricket being more suited to the Brahminical way of life. Corporate patrons. The game that thrived on the patronage of the princes and the colonial administrators was now taken over by corporate patrons. Corporate patronage, however, resulted in the sport being concentrated in urban areas. Corporate patrons preferred educated cricketers who would be employable post their retirement from cricket. For instance, the Tatas insisted on hiring cricketers with graduate degrees, and players' qualifications would also influence their rank and salary. The norms laid down by the Tatas also served as a model for other corporate patrons of cricket. This resulted in players from affluent, educated backgrounds having an advantage over those who did not have access to higher education, quite often those from the lower castes. Cricket is a time-consuming sport, and is thereby limited to people who could afford to spare the time, or the fact that cricket has typically been the preserve of the elite urban focus. As many as 48% of the total Indian Test cricketers in the 1970s-1980s hailed from merely 6 cities, namely Mumbai, Chennai, Delhi, Bengaluru, Hyderabad and Kolkata. Shift to smaller towns has coincided with a significant increase in the number of Muslims playing for India. Patronage determines the nature of feeder tournaments. The men's game is primarily dependent on inter-provincial tournaments such as the Ranji Trophy, intercorporate tournaments and the lucrative Indian Premier League IPL. While several of the teams were run by public sector undertakings, they employed the same models of employment as Tatas, so lower castes did not benefit much. On the other hand, women's cricket in India thrives on the patronage of state bodies, thus ensuring more diverse employee pool. Minorities focused on bowling. Bowling was the most physically taxing part of the game, which was left to the professionals in England and was even visible in India and South Africa, where Dalits, Muslims and blacks have been bowlers rather than batsmen. There is a complete dearth of Dalit role models in Indian cricket. Lack of data. Unfortunately, there is no publicly available data about the number of Dalits playing in the domestic structure in India. Even at the international level, most of the data is speculative. The lack of support for students from disadvantaged classes in institutions of primary education, specifically after the age of 14, means that even though students are admitted into institutions of higher education, they face structural barriers which translate into high dropout rates and failures. Regional development of the sport. For instance, cricket is not as well developed in the Northeast and Kashmir, which have larger than average non-Hindu populations. Minorities like Sikhs had more popularity with the sport of hockey rather than cricket. Way forward, given the fact that barriers are often invisible and are not isolable, a quota is perhaps the best way to address these simultaneously. Further, the example of South Africa shows that reservations have indeed been effective. The first benefit has been an increased black interest and participation in cricket. Equally important, it is significantly changing the school cricket system on which South African cricket thrives. In South Africa, the quota for cricketers of color was introduced at the lower levels of the sport long before its introduction at the national level. This ensured that there was no sudden dip in the quality of cricket being played.